Hello, I'm Norm Domingeuz, and I'm the Vice Chairman Emeritus for Business Network International. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means I've had an incredibly great 40-plus year career. The reason I'm coming to you today is just to share a little bit of my journey, because my journey has been a business professional's journey. I launched my career, while I was still going to college. And so I was on the corporate side of life. And I spent the first dozen years on that side. And suddenly I realized in my early 30s, I wanted to be an entrepreneur or look at the opportunity of an entrepreneur. So at that stage, at that time, I broke my life up into 4 different time frames. The first was, I'll call it the early years, age 21 to 35. And then I'll call it the developing years, age 36 to 50. And then came the really growth or corporate engagement period, making money, so to speak, age 51 to 65. And then I call this period of my life the golden era. But let's back up just a little bit. Because when I was doing that first phase of my life, I really learned, absorbed, got educated about what was necessary to build a career. Yet at the same time, you don't want to get caught up in the minutiae, if you will. So that was a great period. And one of the things that happened during that period that was vital to me is when I sat down with the executive vice president of the company I was working for. And I was a young 27, 28-year-old guy. And I said to him, Everett, tell me why you've been as successful as you are. He gloriously, in two words, changed my life. And he said, Norm, my answer to your question is just be yourself. Just be yourself. And that was a wake-up call for me, because I was trying too hard to be somebody I wasn't. And so that stuck with me through the entire period following that message. A little bird came on my shoulder when I was in my early 30s and said, Norm, it's time for you to try something different. And here I was, a young married person, starting a family, going, okay, we're going to go on an adventure here. Is my wife going to buy into this? And I got into a rather developing business, and it was the wireless communications business. Today, it's the smartphones, it's the iPads, it's the Samsungs. It's all those things that have happened over the last 25 to 30 years. I got into that business and really relocated my family from Denver, Colorado to Phoenix, Arizona. That relocation, we launched into a new phase. But you know what? I wasn't really good at that new phase. Within the business world, you got to plan things. I didn't do a good job of planning. And so subsequently, within 3 or 4 years after I was into this new phase, I went broke. I took advantage of something that was available to me in America. And that was I filed bankruptcy. So I could protect an asset, my home, the roof above my family's head. But at the same time I did that, I found another calling. And here I am now in my mid to late 30s. And that other calling was, when I introduced myself, I said BNI, Business Network International, a referral organization that helps people grow their businesses. I joined it. Little did I know that I would shift and get out of the wireless business and enter into the franchise business. So here I am in my late 30s, early 40s, and I'm embarking on another quasi-entrepreneurial, franchise, intrapreneurial adventure. This carried on for a number of years. And our chairman and the founder of our company, Dr. Ivan Meisner, asked me when I was 50 years old, and 50 years old was moving into the next phase of my life, that 51 to 65-year-old phase. Dr. Meisner said, Norm, I can use some help. Our company's growing. Would you be interested in overseeing the operation of BNI in the United States? I thought about it and I said, Ivan, what's required? And Ivan said to me, you got to move to Los Angeles. I said, Ivan, I'm not moving to Los Angeles. Maybe we can work something out. Well, so what I ended up doing is I stayed with my family in Phoenix, Arizona, and I started commuting between Los Angeles and LA. Or I'd get on a plane Monday morning. For 16 years I did this. I traveled someplace in the US. BNI grew to the point in my late 50s, Ivan asked me to be the CEO of the business and oversee our global operation. Well, in my late 60s, something interesting, my late 50s, excuse me, another interesting stage came into my life. Health. A lot of us go. We think we're indispensable. We think we cannot be challenged. I had a stroke. Laid me up. I was very fortunate because it wasn't a serious stroke. But it was a message from a higher power, so to speak, saying, Norm, you got to take care of yourself. So what I did is I got more exercise. I changed my eating habits. I am a workaholic. I'll be the first one to admit it. But I knew that I had to bring more balance into my life. And I'll never forget a famous saying from a guy that a lot of us heard of, may not remember him, because this is a different era, Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up. So that's the way I've lived my life for the better part of the last 25 years. Here I am, well into my 60s, and I've entered the fourth stage of my life. But the fourth stage of my life doesn't have any end, as you might say. It's 65 and beyond. And this is the fun stage, the way I look at it. I get to do things like more engagement with family, but yet still be an intrapreneur. As the vice chairman of BNI, I get to interface with the new leadership as we grow this great organization to help people around the world. I'm sitting here sharing this message with you at the BNI National Convention in Hyderabad, India. I say that only because BNI has allowed me to become a global citizen, yet I do bleed red, white, and blue as an American. This little adventure that I share with you is all part of a planning process. Because when I talk about the planning process, I shared with you, learn as much as you can in your 20s and early 30s. Don't be afraid to venture into something else if it's your calling. Because I find the 35, 36 to 50-year-old stage is when you really explore, when you're really finding yourself. And sometimes you're going to have, there's a famous book that I'm real happy about, Good to Great, Jim Collins. And there's a principle in that book that's called the flywheel and the doom loop. I don't really care for the word doom loop, so I call it reality checks. We've got this great activity getting bigger and bigger and bigger that I call life. And with this big activity of life, we're going to have reality checks. That's good. They are wake-up calls. They allow us to make adjustments. And I've been living by some of those principles as part of my life. So when you're putting that plan together, And I'm hoping whatever your age might be, you can implement this at any stage of your career. Because for me, it's allowed me to engage more now in my golden years with my family, with those professionals that I'm surrounded by, that I say, as long as my health is good, and as long as I'm making a contribution, I'll continue to be active in the professional world. But I don't want it to dominate my personal ambitions. And that's family, number one. Health, number two. And just having some fun. I enjoy sports. I enjoy research. I enjoy writing. And these are things that I get to partake in to maintain that balance. So as you think about what you're doing, as you look at whether it's professional, personal, or the total picture of life, you create a plan, you define that plan. For me, it was 4 stages: the early years, the maturing years, or the developing years, I should say, the maturing years, and now the golden era. And it's something now that I get to reflect upon and share with colleagues that I come in contact with. I pray for you that it's helpful, that you can take it and just pick little things out and enjoy life. For me, I say life is remarkable because it's the journey that you're on that allows you to live your dreams. Success to all of you, and thanks for this moment.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Norm. So I have a couple of questions which I want you to address. So India is going through a revolution in terms of startups, and a lot of entrepreneurs are in the making. We've already been there, done that. So what is your differentiation or distinction between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur? Because a lot of corporate employees who would like to become an entrepreneur because they don't know whether they really want to become an entrepreneur or they just want to join the bank. So is there a is there a checklist, or is there something that they can introspect or understand to figure out if they are a good entrepreneur, or they can probably a great entrepreneur as well?
Well, entrepreneurism is probably the most ambitious spirit of business there is, because there's technically the freedom to do whatever you want to do. But what's really important is discipline. And I think whatever the structured professional environment might be, whether it's banking or whether it's manufacturing or whether it's finance or whether other professional fields, legal profession, the medical profession, all of these are somewhat what you would call structured environments, or the corporate world, as you might say. Entrepreneurism is unstructured. It's the spirit of being able to do whatever you want to do and develop. Entrepreneurism blends the two and allows you to take and use what you've learned and keep structure within it. And when you can keep some structure within it, that allows you to focus on helping others grow their business. So what do I think about India? I think India is a country that is totally on the upside of life. It's a great country that's going to bring great things to a global environment. Why? Because the happiness, the spirit, the understanding, the education. So when I look at India as a whole right now, it's destined to be one of the great countries, if not already one of the great countries on this planet. And as our population on this planet continues to grow, and India continues to develop in so many facets, India is going to be a great contributor to every stage of somebody's life.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. So, this leads to probably another question. I mean, you've rightly mentioned about happiness. So, how do you interlink money and happiness?
Well, happiness comes first, and it was an awakening for me. I've always been a pretty easygoing, highly spirited, happy individual. But I also look about it in terms of attitude. You got to have the right attitude, and so a positive attitude is critical. Happiness was a wake up call to me, but it didn't happen to me directly. It happened to me indirectly. A little story. I've got three. My wife and I, Sandy, have three great children, and one of our children ended up going down a path that was difficult for all of us. And it's a path that's happening around the world. A path that made her an addict. And in this case, it was prescription drugs. And when she went on this, shall I say, detour in her life, it was a wake-up call for me and my wife. And the first thing I realized is that if you've got the right attitude, and you can put a smile on your face, and happiness can influence you, then you can go in the direction of helping others. There's a series of books. There are a number of people that I can give credit to, but in the interest of time, it's pretty simple. Happiness comes from inside. Happiness comes from the heart and the mind. And if you can get up every single morning and say, you know what, God gives me another day. So you treat it with the best spirit that you possibly can. And you try to help somebody. I have a presentation that I do that I call it Everyday Matters. And within that presentation of Everyday Matters, I go, something that occurred to you yesterday could impact today. Something that happens today is going to influence tomorrow. But if you blend it all together and you just treat every single day as it comes, it's easy to be happy. It becomes automatic. And basically people will go, how do you do it? It's a mindset, my friend. It comes from the heart. It comes from the soul. And when you can make that a mindset, it's discipline, by golly sakes. Whether you're somebody that likes to read, somebody that likes to listen to audio stuff, surround yourself with that. Put a happy face in your heart, in your mind, and know that yes, there are going to be reality checks, but nothing can get in the way of happiness.
Wonderful. I think that was really awesome. So, in your experience, can you summarize in terms of what are the 3 traits that every entrepreneur should have? I mean, be it for success or growth, or I mean, just for being an entrepreneur, for the sake of it. But what do you think, could be those 3 aspects that, look, you can probably have 10 aspects in life, but maybe these are those 2 or 3 aspects that every entrepreneur should have, which probably is a guaranteed road to success.
One, never give up. Never give up. Things are going to get in your way, but you've got to live your dreams. 2, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Modern day, probably one of the greatest be yourself people we've ever come across is the late Steve Jobs from Apple. Or when you look at what people like Richard Branson have done, that's more seasoned and mature. This guy has lived a great life. So be yourself. The third one, attitude, but not attitude that draws from you, attitude that builds you. The positive spirit that will create a global movement of positivity because your attitude is correct. And help to spread that spirit by not letting those, shall I say, negative stories or images that pass by you affect you. Spread the word. Be happy. Spread the word. Keep the right attitude. Be yourself and never give up.
Fabulous, fabulous. So, we will probably end this with my two last questions. How important is decision making for an entrepreneur?
Decision making is what I call a culture of discipline. And that really comes, I'll give credit, Jim Collins.
Yep.
Because decision making, first of all, decisions happen from a person. But a person has to have disciplined thought and then take disciplined action. You're not always going to be right. But when you make a decision and it goes in the direction that you've wanted it to go, helping others, you've done the right thing. If it doesn't go in the direction that you think you wanted it to go, you got to be flexible. And then you don't give up. So decision making is key in everything we do. And don't be afraid to make a decision. Don't be afraid to make a decision. Not everybody's going to be, you're not here to please everybody. If you're here to please everybody, you can be a puppet, and that's easy. But making decisions are not easy because you have to have disciplined thought and disciplined action to follow through with that decision.
Great. I think you nailed it. So I will probably end this with my, one of my favorite questions that I keep asking thought leaders like you. How do you, success has different connotations and meanings to different people. So what does success mean to you?
Wow. Well, first of all, I'll tell you what, money isn't success. Life is success. Showing gratitude is success. Counting your blessings is success. Love is success. And when you can follow that, the money will follow. It's nice to have money. I'm comfortable. But happiness and gratitude and blessings and family, and the list will grow for all of us. So I wish all of you tremendous success, keeping in mind that success comes from the heart. Success comes from within. Happiness comes from within.
Fantastic. I think that was really awesome. Thanks a lot, Norm. Thanks. Really appreciate from the bottom of my heart for being with me on this candid conversation. Really appreciate, and thanks a lot. I really hope and wish that the entrepreneurial journey of a lot of entrepreneurs in India is going to benefit from whatever you just said. They're golden words that that have come from a person like you, who's a legend in BNI, and I'm sure every word of it is of great importance and meaning. Thanks a lot.
I thank you.